Assalamu alaikum, dear kids. How are you all? Welcome back to our English class. This is your teacher, Miss Saima. Dear kids, in the previous class we have done the reading of lesson number 9. The title was 5 spoons of salt, and today we are going to do the comprehension of this lesson. Dear kids, come, let's get started. So kids, this is lesson number 9, 5 spoons of salt. Geeta was a forgetful girl. She would set out to buy Ajam medicine for his headache, but stopped to talk to her friends on the way. Only when the sky grew dark and it was time to return home would she remember Aja's medicine. By that time, the shop would be closed. So this is the story about a girl, namely Geeta, and she was forgetful. She used to forget things very quickly. So she was a forgetful girl, and if her parents like aja is a word like we say in Kashmiri, what we say? Ab. Don't we say abba, or we say dadu? We say dadu in Urdu. Likewise, this aja is the word used in Karnataka for grandfather. Okay, so this Geeta, if she would sometimes go to buy medicine for her grandfather, like her grandfather was suffering from a headache and she would go out to buy medicine for him, she would stop on the way and start talking to her friends. She would keep talking to them and forget all about medicines. And when the sky would grow dark, at that time she would remember, oh, I have to buy medicines, and at that time the shop would be closed. So she was pretty forgetful. She used to forget things very quickly. If Amma asked her to collect their clothes from the washing line, she would remember to do it only the next day, but they would be wet again because of the overnight rain. Like this Amma, it is the word used in Karnataka for mother. So if her mother would tell her to collect all the cloths that are kept on the washing line for drying, she would remember to do the same thing on the next day. But till then, due to the overnight rain and the rain that was there during the night, all the cloths would have again became wet. Once when Appa was in a hurry and asked her to iron his shirt, she forgot about it and went to see the fruit seller to pick out some juicy mangoes. Now again, this Appa is a word used for father. So one day her father, he was in a hurry, he had to go somewhere. He asked Geeta to iron his shirt, and what she did, she forgot about it. She went outside, she saw a vendor who was selling fruits, she saw a fruit seller there, and she went to pick out some juicy mangoes there. Okay, so she forgot all about ironing her father's shirt. One day, Geeta came home from school and announced that her class was going on a picnic the next day. The teacher had asked each student to bring one food item from home. Geeta had to take sambar. This would be shared at lunch by everyone. Amma agreed to make a big pot of her tasty sambar for Geeta to take on the picnic. So one day Geeta returned from school and she announced that her whole class was going for a picnic on the next day, and her class teacher had advised all the students to bring one type of food item from home, and she had assigned Geeta the task of bringing sambar. Sambar is also a South Indian dish. Okay, so teacher had told Geeta to bring sambar for all the students, and though that sambar that would be shared by all the students on the picnic. Now Amma also agreed that okay, I'll make a big pot of sambar for you so that you can take it to the picnic. The next morning, Amma woke up early to make the sambar. She cooked the dal, added the vegetables, coconut and spices, and left the pot on the stove to boil. Now it was the next day. Geeta had to leave for picnic. Her mother woke up very early to make the sambar. She cooked the dal, added some vegetables, coconut, spices. Spices, you know, not turmeric, chili, fenugreek, all other cloves, cardamom, everything. Okay, she added the spices in it and she left this pot to boil. Okay, so that it gets cooked properly. Then she called to Geeta, Geeta, I'm going to the temple. After some time, add 5 teaspoons of salt to the sambar. Don't forget, wake up now and get ready quickly. Now, when she kept this pot on the stove, then she called Geeta and she told her that I'm going to the temple. Wake up now, and when you wake up, add 5 teaspoons. Teaspoon is the small spoon that we use when we have tea. So add 5 small teaspoons of salt to the sambar. She knew that Geeta was a forgetful girl, so she added, don't forget. Okay, now she told Geeta to wake up and get ready. Aji, who was in the next room, thought that girl will never remember to put in the salt, so she went into the kitchen and added 5 spoons of salt to the pot. Now Aji was her grandmother. Okay, she was in the next room, she was waking. She thought, oh, Geeta's mother had told Geeta to add salt, she will always forget about it, so it is better. She went to the kitchen and added 5 spoons of salt herself. Aja, who was reading the newspaper in the veranda, thought that of the day when Geeta forgot his medicine, so he went into the kitchen and added 5 spoons of salt to the sambar. Now see, her grandfather Aja, he was also reading the newspaper in the veranda. Now he thought, oh, one day I told Geeta to bring medicines, she forgot that, how will she remember to add salt to the sambar? So he also went to the kitchen, he added 5 spoons. Grandmother added 5, now grandfather also added 5. It means 10 spoons are already added. Geeta's sister Mala, who was getting ready for the school, had heard Amma's instructions. She hurried into the kitchen and added 5 spoons of salt to the sambar. Appa was carefully ironing his shirt in front room, so he went into the kitchen and added salt to the sambar. Now see, Geeta's sister Mala, she was also getting ready for the school. She heard Amma telling Geeta to add 5 spoons of salt, so she too went into the kitchen and added 5 spoons of salt. So 5 grandmother, 5 grandfather, 5 sister. It makes 15. Now Appa, Geeta's father, he was also ironing his shirt. He thought, oh, Geeta would forget to add the salt. He also went to the kitchen and added 5 more spoons of salt. So grandfather, grandmother, sister, father, it makes 20 teaspoons of salt were added. By now, Geeta was ready to leave for school. She remembered she had to add 5 teaspoons of salt to the sambar. Amma returned to the temple and saw Geeta in the kitchen. She quickly poured the sambar into a big container and Geeta set off for the picnic. Now Geeta was also ready. This time she remembered, oh, I have to add 5 teaspoons of salt. So she also added, so it makes 25 spoons of salt. Now Amma returned from the temple and what she did, she poured this sambar into a big container and gave it to Geeta so that she could leave for the picnic. That afternoon, the children sat down hungrily. As soon as the first person tasted the sambar, he shouted, water! Now it was picnic. That afternoon, all the children, they were feeling hungry. They sat down to eat the sambar. And when first student tasted the sambar, he said, oh, water, water. Geeta saw other people away the sambar. She could not understand what was happening. Now Geeta saw all people, all the students, all the children, they were throwing away the sambar. She could not understand why they were doing so. Then she tasted the sambar herself. It was as if all the salt in the sea had been poured into the sambar. She tried to taste the sambar and it was too salty to be eaten by anyone. There were 25 spoons of salt already added to it. So Geeta felt, oh, this is full of salt. Geeta ran home that evening and burst into tears. Now Geeta went home after this picnic, but she was crying. She was weeping bitterly. Did anyone else add salt to the sambar? She asked. Now she asked her family members that, leaving me, has any other person added salt to this sambar? I did, said Aji. I did too, said Appa. So did I, said Aja. Me too, Mala. See, grandfather, grandmother, father, sister all said, oh, I have also added, I have also added, okay? Why did you all do it? Amma told only me, cried Geeta. Everyone felt bad for her. Now Geeta shouted, why all of you added salt to it? Amma had only instructed me to add. Why did you do it? She was crying. Everyone felt bad for her. Amma wiped away her tears. Now do you understand why it is important to be responsible while doing work? Geeta nodded. Now Amma wiped her tears. She asked her, now do you understand why it is always better, why it is always the best to do every work in time, why it is always best to be responsible while doing work? Now Geeta nodded her head. Yes, I understand. She changed after that And soon afterwards, her friends came home for lunch one day and agreed that Amma's sambar was the tastiest they had ever eaten. Now, after that, Geeta changed. She gave up her habit of forgetting things. She became very responsible. And one day, after that incident, one day her friends came to her home for lunch. And when they tasted Amma's sambar, Amma prepared sambar for them, for all of them. They agreed, they accepted that Amma's sambar was undoubtedly the tastiest sambar they had ever eaten. So, dear kids, from this story we learned that we should be very responsible while doing work. We should never forget things. We should never indulge in unnecessary things, unnecessary works. Okay, so take good care of yourselves. Allah Hafiz.